Hi, Terry Ryder from hotspotting.com today. Bringing you my regular weekly feature at this time, the war on media misinformation, of which there is just so much. One of the frequent ones that recurs frequently is that we often see newspapers and other media outlets publishing their lists of the top locations around Australia or in a particular state or city where, as they describe it, property values have grown the most in the past quarter or the past 12 months. The problem is most of the locations on that list don't deserve to be there. The data is statistical nonsense, usually caused by a small sales sample. Now, I'll give you an example of what I mean. There's one that's appeared in the media yesterday in News Limited newspapers. It's an article which purports to present the locations in Brisbane where property values have grown the fastest. The fastest growing suburbs in Brisbane, shouts the headline. Now, it's nice that mainstream media is actually publishing something positive, because mostly they want to publish data about prices crashing everywhere. Here's a positive article talking about the places where values are up a lot. Unfortunately, in this case, the data is nonsense, and in most cases it's caused by a very small sale sample, and I'll explain what I mean. But in this article, it lists the fastest growing Brisbane suburbs for price growth. There's 6 locations. There's only one of those locations out of the 6 that's actually a legitimate entry where there's been a legitimate growth in values. In every other instance, it's a case of a really small sales sample producing a statistical aberration. Now, the rule that we apply at Hotspotting when we're looking at annual price data, any location that's got fewer than 30 sales in a year, we disregard. We exclude them from the figures, because we think that anything fewer than 30 is too small a sales sample to give a meaningful median price, and that's the problem. When median prices have all sorts of aberrations and anomalies within them, and they can be very misleading, and media keeps reporting them as a change in the median prices, a rise in property values or a decrease in property values, and it's not that at all. It's simply the median's changed for various reasons. Quite often it's an anomaly, but you're more likely to get a statistical anomaly if you've got a very small sales sample, because 1 or 2 sales at the top end of the market or the bottom end of the market can result in a big distortion of the median price, and it's misleading to interpret that as a rise in values or a fall in values. So the one that's top of the list in Brisbane, according to this article in the News Limited publications, an article written by Sophie Foster, who should have known better because she's been doing it for a while, but this is just nonsense. It's saying the fastest growing suburb in Brisbane where prices have jumped almost 35% in 1 year is Sandgate, but not Sandgate houses. She's talking about the Sandgate unit market. Well, here's the problem. There's virtually no unit market in Sandgate. In fact, in the last 12 months, there's only been 11 sales of units, and that's a very tiny sale sum, too small to give you a meaningful median price. So it's resulted in a distorted median and giving the appearance that, as they've reported, that prices have jumped 35%. Well, prices haven't jumped 35% in Sandgate, nothing like it. The median's changed that much because the sales sample is so small. Now, as usual, the source of this misinformation is, you guessed it, CoreLogic. They're happy to pump out these lists. They don't care as long as it gets them publicity. And it does, because the journalists don't know any better, and they should know better if they're actually expert in the field in which they're writing. Sadly, most of them are not. So Sandgate doesn't deserve to be top of Brisbane list. Sandgate units, certainly. Sandgate's a lovely suburb, seaside, lots to recommend it, but it's a housing market. There are very few units, and the units that have sold the median price because of the small sale sample is a nonsense. So the next one on the list is houses on Lamb Island out there in Moreton Bay. Same situation. We've got, according to this, property values on Lamb Island have increased 33%. Well, property values haven't. The median price has changed that much because, again, there's only been 9 or 10 sales in the past 12 months. Tiny sales sample, distorted median. The rise in the median is a piece of misinformation. It shouldn't be on this list. Then we have units in the suburb of Birkdale. Same outcome, too small a sales sample to provide meaningful, accurate, credible information in terms of median unit prices, and they've arrived at a result claiming that the value of units in Birkdale has risen 28%. Well, it simply hasn't. Then we've got South Brisbane houses, which are up in value according to this article and this list from CoreLogic, 27.5%. Now, the thing is, there aren't any houses in South Brisbane. It's a suburb of infrastructure, parklands. It's where we have the major entertainment and arts and cultural complexes for Brisbane. There's lots of hotels there. There's lots of apartments there. Lots of commercial and retail and restaurants, but there aren't any houses at all. So how they've come up with a median price for houses in a suburb that doesn't have any houses, I don't know. But they're claiming that it's the same thing, only worse. Not a small sale sample, it's a zero sale sample. But somehow they've come up with a median price and claiming that it's increased 27.5%. So according to the article written here, values are up by 27.5%. Very hard to have an increase in values for houses when there aren't any houses. But anyway, they've managed it. And then we've got another, finally on the list, Dutton Park houses. Well, Dutton Park, similar to South Brisbane, not so far away from Dutton Park. Dutton Park's a suburb that's full of commercial and retail and hospitality and all sorts of other properties, but very, very few houses. And so again, very small sales sample. The statistics are nonsense. So there's only one inclusion on this list of 6 locations that's actually legitimate, and that's some houses in the suburb of Brookwater, which there have been 61 house sales in the past 12 months in Brookwater. The median price is $810,000, and that's up 27%. So 61 sales is a sufficiently large sales sample to produce a meaningful result, but there may be other reasons why the median's up so much. It doesn't mean that values have risen 27%. It just means the change in the median is 27%. And quite often, you can actually have a situation where the median price is up, but values are down, or vice versa. You can have a situation where the median price is down, but values have actually risen. And it's because of the various vagaries and anomalies that are produced when you deal with median prices. So we've got statements in this article. Reedland suburb Birkdale saw its unit values jump 27% in the past 12 months. Well, that's an incorrect statement. Unit values have not risen 27% in Birkdale, or anything like it. The median price has, because of a small sales sample, and there may have been within that small sales sample, there may have been an upmarket small project that was sold during this period, and it's lifted the median price, but values haven't risen to that degree. But these sorts of things are appearing in our media all the time. Whenever these lists appear saying values are up in a certain area by 40%, check out how many sales have been in that location in the past 12 months. You usually find there's only been 5 or 6 or 9 or 10. Some cases you're going to find there's been no sales. I mean, there was a list like this published about a year ago by The Australian, and it was farcical because in the suburb where it was claiming that property values had dropped a lot for houses, there actually were no houses in that area. It was a location on the map in the Brisbane area, but no houses, no residential properties. It was there was a golf course, there was a water treatment plant. It was a lot of the land in that particular location was floodable when the tide was in, so there were no houses there at all. And somehow they came up with a median price and claimed that it dropped a lot. Well, this is the opposite. They're claiming median prices, for example, South Brisbane for houses have risen a lot, but there aren't any houses there. So yeah, I mean, journalists don't check things anymore. They just recycle the press releases, and that's why organisations like CoreLogic just pump out their stuff. They don't care. They get lots of publicity because the journalists don't check. They don't apply any expertise. They just recycle the press release. I mean, you can teach a monkey to do it. There's no journalism involved at all. And sadly, it's sad but true. So you've got to be very, very careful when you see these lists published in media saying big jumps in value or big declines in value, and certainly don't go out and base any meaningful decisions on that information, because it's not information, it's misinformation yet again. Sad but true. Terry Ryder from Hotspotting signing off for this week's edition of The War on Misinformation. We'll do it again, same time next week. Bye for now.